Welcome to the video on applications of linear equations. So when you get what's commonly called a word problem, follow the following steps to make sense of it and work your way through it. So one of the things you want to do is, so let me write them down. So steps, okay? Certainly one of the things you really want to do is always read and understand the question. These are not difficult problems if you just give it a shot. Just read and understand the question. And one of the things that I find many students don't do is they don't start at the question. So always identify the question, meaning what do they want you to find? What do they want you to find? Now, it seems obvious, but if you don't know what you're looking for, there is no way to find it. So you can't solve it if you're not really clear about what you're supposed to find. Then you want to, once you figure that out, you want to set up appropriate let statements. Then you want to set up an equation. You want to solve the equation. And 6, you want to report reasonable answers. And you want to include units when appropriate. Okay, so when I'm grading word problems, I am looking for these things. So I can't clearly see steps 1 and 2, but I can certainly see steps 3, 4, and 5. I look for the let statements. I look for an appropriate equation, not some made-up equation. I look to see if you're solving this equation in some reasonable way, and I look to see if you've reported these answers. Right? So keep that in mind. Those are all things that I want to see in your solution process. We'll start off by taking a look at a simple problem here. We'll go through the steps. So right here it says define the variables, write an appropriate equation, solve your equation, and report results. So those are the instructions for the problem. And the problem itself says 4 subtracted from 3 times a number is 11. Determine the number. So I sort of understand it. This is 4 taken away from 3 times a number is 11. So determine the number. So the key thing here is this number, right? That's the question. So I'm going to start there. So here is my let statement, right? So I'm going to say let x be the number. You can use an equal sign, or you can say let x, let me erase that, be the number. Right, so now I know I have x represents the number. That was, really what was that? Step 3, set up the appropriate let statement. Okay, then step 4 is to set up an equation. Now the equation comes from this statement right there, right? 4 subtracted from 3 times a number. So 3 times a number, so 3 times the number, and 4 subtracted means subtract 4, is 11. Yeah, it's the second step number 4, setting up an appropriate equation. Step 5, solve the equation. Well, this is a pretty easy equation to solve, so I'm going to add 4 to both sides. I get 3x is equal to 15, divide by 3, divide by 3, x equals to 5. Solve the equation. Report reasonable answers, include units when appropriate. So there are no units on this. That is sufficient, as in this particular problem, as a reasonable answer. So do you see the steps? So I'm looking for all these um, processes. These. When I look at your problem, I'm looking to see if I see that. Do I see this? Do I see this? And do I see this? Right. So I'm looking at these things. Looking for these things. So let's take a look at second problem. Same instructions. Now it says the difference of two numbers is 16. Determine the two numbers if the larger number is 2 less than 4 times the smaller number. All right. So this is a more complex problem, but that's all right. So first of all, it says determine the two numbers. Right there, I'm being told what I have to find. Okay. Now, this one is harder because clearly there are two things that I don't know. However, if I think about it a minute, if the larger number is 2 less than 4 times the smaller number. So clearly, if I know the smaller number, when I read this, if I know the smaller one, so let me write this thought down. If I know the smaller number, I can find the larger. Right? So I can clearly see that if I know the smaller one, then I'm going to take 4 times the smaller one and take away 2, and I got the larger number. So I'm going to set up my let statement as the smaller number. So I don't know two things. I'm going to start with the smaller number. I'm going to say let x be the smaller number. Right? Then I'm going to say let 4 times x minus 2. 4 times 2 less than 4 times the smaller. Be the, oh, not there, be the larger number. Right? So we've got the smaller number, we've got the larger number. Now remember that this whole thing is the larger number, not any part of it. This is the smaller number. Right? And so then go back to the part here. The difference of the two numbers is 16. So the difference, so that means, now you got to think a little bit. That's a plus 16, right? So this is a plus 16. Difference is subtraction. So the larger one must go here. The smaller one must go here, right? In order for it to be positive. Now, if that had been negative 16, you just switch the order right there. But in this case, it's positive 16. So I'm going to write 4x minus 2, right? That's the larger number, minus the smaller number. That must equal 16. Okay, so that is 3x, if I combine like terms, minus 2 is equal to 16. Add 2, then I get 3x is equal to 18, and then I divide by 3, x equals 6. Now, you're not done at this point, right? Think about what you just found. What did we say x was? X is the smaller number. So, in reporting your answers, here's what you can do. You would say smaller number is 16. Excuse me, 6. Is 6. Larger number is, okay, so what's the larger number? Well, it's 4 times 6 minus 2. So what is that? 4 times 6 is 24. 24 minus 2 is 22. There. These are your two answers. Reporting your answers. So let statement, reasonable equation, solving, reporting of answers. Next up, very similar problems these are. Define variables, write appropriate equations, solve your equations, report answers. A truck rental costs $42 a day plus 24 cents a mile. If the total cost for a one-day rental is 60, how many miles were driven? So part A. So again, let's start with what I don't know. So what we are supposed to find is this. So we'll say let x be the number of miles driven. So then, if I drive X miles, how would I get charged? I get charged $42 a day even if I don't drive the thing, and I get charged 24 cents a mile. Alright, so charges, right? Charges would be $42 regardless if I keep it for one day, plus 24 cents a mile. So now be careful, we got to do everything in the same units. So it's 0.24 times x. So this is my charge per mile. This is my daily charge. And it turns out that I end up by paying, when I return the truck, 60 through 60. So now I have a little equation. So let's subtract 42. So 0.24x is equal to 6360 minus 60. So 6360 minus 60. Oh no. 6360 minus 42. There. And then I'm going to divide by 0.24. 0.24. So I get x to be divided by 0.24. I think I got that. 90 miles. So it appears that I have driven 90 miles. That is the first part. Part B says you rent the truck so you can move to a new apartment about 5 miles away from your current one. So let's see, you're here and that's your new. So let's say current, new, this is 5 miles. Beyond driving the truck to the rental store to your current apartment and back about 10 miles away, you make one round trip. Okay, so if we say that's the rental store is like, let me draw a rental store, clearly not drawn to scale. So here that's about 10 miles. So round trip, that would be 20 there. Round trip, that would be 10 here. So total, you estimate that you've done 30 miles. Then the question asks, was the amount charged reasonable, or did the clerk make a mistake? Well, it appears that the amount charged was a little excessive. It looks like you, in your estimate, you did only 30 miles and you were charged for 90 miles. So it appears you were overcharged. Alright, that's it. We'll take up percent problems on the next video.